Okay, so you have a note sheet in front of you titled Cell Cycle and Mitosis. And as we go through today's lesson, you're going to be filling out the note sheet. Notice that there's not a lot of blank spaces. There's going to be a lot of visuals, and we're going to talk about the very importance of the cell cycle mitosis. And everything that we learned about biology is important because it has to do with what? Life. Whose life? Your life. And how you continuously live through your life, how you're able to survive. A lot of what's going on in your body is under your control. No, your body is automatically taking care of itself for you to be able to live. So let's take a look at cell cycle mitosis, short video, before we go ahead and get started with taking notes. You just need to listen so that you can participate. You don't need to write anything on here as of yet.
Have you ever looked down at your leg or your arm to find some cut? You have no idea where it came from or how you got it. So you put a Band-Aid on it, and a few days later, it's gone. It's all healed. And you don't even think anything of it, of the amazing process that caused this to happen. Or let's say you're looking at your nails, and you notice that they're kind of jagged looking because they've really grown since the last time you cut them or filed them down. Or let's say you look in the mirror and you notice that you are a lot bigger than you were when you were 5 years old. What do all of these things have in common? All of these things have one thing in common, and that is mitosis. Mitosis is a type of cell division done by most of your body cells, and it's really important for cells to divide. If they didn't divide, you couldn't grow. I mean, how do you grow if you can't make more cells, right? So one reason why you're bigger than you were when you were 5 is mitosis. Mitosis also is great for repair of damage. If you have some kind of accident, like when we were talking about the cut on your arm or leg, you want to make sure that it can get repaired. Well, you have to make more cells to do that. So mitosis is great for that. What mitosis is not, okay, it's really important to understand what it is not. It is not a process that makes sperm or egg cells, because that is something called meiosis, which sounds very much like mitosis, unfortunately, but it is a different process. Okay, mitosis is only done by body cells. Mitosis also makes identical cells. That is the goal, is identical cells. So if you're trying to make more skin cells to replace worn out or damaged cells, you don't want to start suddenly making stomach cells there. That would be ridiculous. You want to make sure you have identical cells replacing what was lost. So mitosis makes identical cells. Real important thing. Now, it's also important to understand that your cells are not dividing all the time. That would be a disaster. If all they did was divide, you would just have this rapid, crazy growth. In fact, that's kind of what cancer is. Cancer is uncontrolled cell growth. We have a great clip on the cell cycle and what the cell is usually doing most of its daily life, which is actually a phase called interphase, where it's growing and it's replicating its DNA and carrying out some of its cell processes. That's what it spends most of its time doing. But mitosis is a very short amount of time. But during that time, it's a very important process because this is where it is going to divide. Before we get into the steps of division, it's really important to understand that your cells have something inside them, an organelle called the nucleus. And the nucleus holds your DNA. DNA is really important because it's your genetic information. And if you're going to make more cells, you need to have the same DNA in those new cells as you did in the original cell. You want it to be identical, no mistakes. Very important. The problem is you've got a lot of DNA, and we've got to get that DNA into the new cells using mitosis. So there has to be a better way to organize that DNA. Like that DNA needs to go to the container store and get organized. Well, what actually happens is that DNA can be organized into these units called chromosomes. Chromosomes are made of DNA and protein. You've probably heard before that humans have 46 chromosomes. That means in human body cells, in the nuclei, that's the plural of nucleus, you don't say nucleuses, you say nuclei. In the nuclei, there are 46 chromosomes. So basically that means that DNA is organized in chromosomes. It also makes it a lot easier to move over when you're making new cells. Okay, Now here's something that's tricky about mitosis that students get confused with. So if you have 46 chromosomes in a cell, you have to duplicate those chromosomes. That basically means you're duplicating DNA, because remember, chromosomes are made of DNA and protein. You're duplicating the chromosomes before you divide. You have to do that because if you're going to make an identical cell that has 46, well, you had to duplicate it before splitting. So if you look at our cell cycle video clip, we talk about an interphase, which is a stage that most of the time cells are in. They actually duplicate their DNA. So during that time, they would have duplicated their DNA. So instead of 46 chromosomes, during interphase, they would duplicate and have up to 92 chromosomes. So that when it gets to mitosis, they will be able to split into two cells that each have 46 chromosomes. And that will be identical to the original cell. So let's get right into the mitosis stages. I like to tell students to remember PMAT. It's a little acronym, helps you remember the P is for prophase, the M is for metaphase, the A is for anaphase, and the T is for telophase. So remember PMAT. That's the stages in order. So the very first step is prophase. Prophase, because it's the beginning step, the nucleus is still there, and it's going to go away in a little bit. So this is a stage where it's actually still there. And the chromosomes are visible. In fact, we say they're condensing, which means they're kind of thickening and visible. So prophase, very beginning step. The next stage is metaphase, M for metaphase, and I also like to remember the M for middle, because in this stage, the chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell. The nucleus has been disassembled, it's no longer there, so we've got the chromosomes in the middle, waiting there to be pulled apart for the next stage. Next, the A is for anaphase. In anaphase, I like to think of the A is for away. The chromosomes move away. They're moving to the opposite side of the cell. So they're kind of moving to the poles of the cell. Now, one thing to point out, these chromosomes are not just moving by themselves. They actually have something called spindles. These spindles are fibers that help move the chromosomes to the opposite ends. It kind of helps them move along. The last stage, the T, is for telophase. And in telophase, the chromosomes are actually at the complete opposite ends, and new nuclei are forming on each side to make these two new cells, and they're starting to surround the chromosomes on both sides. So I like to think of the T is for two, because in mitosis, you end with two cells. And again, remember, they are identical. You can really quiz yourself online with a lot of mitosis pictures. There's tons of mitosis quizzes online to practice being able to look at the cell picture and naming what stage it is. And remember, we really do care about mitosis because without it, we wouldn't understand how cells grow, how they repair damage, and it's really a lot of our cancer research is dependent on understanding mitosis because cancer itself is uncontrolled cell growth. So in other words, uncontrolled mitosis. Well, that's it for the Amoeba Sisters, and we remind you to stay curious.
All right, so now that we know about mitosis, let's see how well you were listening. What is the division of cells to create new cells? No. This is creating of new cells. The entire process of dividing the two cells. The entire process, it goes and it continuously goes. What word? Cell cycle. It's a continuation. It's the division of creating new cells. Once that's all done, it's the cell cycle. You need to be writing that in your first blank. You notice these words look just like the words on your paper, and the answer is cell cycle. It's the cycle of a cell. What's a cycle mean? What is that? A circle. It starts in one spot and continues to go, and it repeats, and it repeats, and it repeats. And that's the cycle of the cell, the repeating process of dividing cells to create new cells. All right. Now, here's when cells actually divide. The nucleus, the nuclei mean what? What is the nuclei again? Multiple nucleus. So the nucleus must also divide. This would be, nope. This process is within the cell cycle, which would be mitosis. Mitosis is a part of the cell cycle. The cell cycle is the entire division of the cell. Mitosis is actually the process when two new nuclei are formed. Once the two nuclei are formed, mitosis is complete, but we still have to split the cell, which then completes the cell cycle. Got it? And we'll be talking about that a little bit more. Now, why must cells divide? Why is this important? Well, this is important for this reason here. Let's take a look at this little short video, and you tell me what's happening here. Keep it quiet. Joe, just keep it quiet. If you're watching this and you're looking at the picture that's on your paper, try to come up with why our cells must divide. Why is this important? Why do our cells divide? Why is this important to us? So we can grow. It's very important for our cells to divide so that we have growth. You do not want to be the same size as you were at birth. The next reason, which is displayed up here, and it should not have been, but is for repair and replace. So when we look here, if you cut yourself, you don't want it to be the end of the world. If you cut yourself, you don't want it to bleed to death. What happens when you cut yourself? You bleed. But then what happens? It ends up healing. How many of you have ever scraped your knee, scraped your elbow, cut your finger, cut your ear, anything like that, got your ears pierced? Are you dead? No, you are still very much alive. Why? Because it healed. How did it heal? Mitosis, the cell cycle. The cell said, uh-oh, we lost some sisters and brothers here. We got to replace them and we got to repair. And we got to get this together. We got to fix it because we can't have this open area and all the rest of our blood flows out. We got to fix this up. We got to patch this up and get to the rescue. So our cells divide for repair and replace. Now repairing, one area that's repairing constantly are your stomach cells. And notice in the video she told you that the cells are identical. So skin cells are only going to make skin cells. You do not want your skin cells to make stomach cells. That would be awkward. Stomach cells only make, brain cells only make. There you go. So in your stomach, you have this acid, hydrochloric acids in your stomach. And that acid is to help break down the food that you eat. But that acid also breaks down the lining of your stomach. And as the lining of your stomach is broken down, what are your cells doing? You're like, oh, we got to make more cells. So they're repairing the cells that have been broken down so you don't have an ulcer. And this is doing this all on your own. An ulcer is a hole in your stomach. So, and you're doing this all, your body's doing this all on its own to protect you. Now, how many of you would be very frustrated that every time something happened, you had to tell your body to fix it? You got to cut. We need to get to the rescue. We need to fix this. Cut. Oh, my stomach is messing up. We need to fix that. Oh, my goodness, I bruised my elbow. You don't have to tell your body to do this. How many of you knew that the lining of your stomach was continuously being broken down? 2 people. The rest of you would be in bad shape because you didn't know, so you wouldn't know to tell your cells to fix it. Your cells automatically know. Your body automatically knows we have to fix this. Any questions? Okay. Then on your paper you have these different stages and cycles. It starts with interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Notice they all have letters, I, P, M, A, T, C. No. You later on can come with up with your own acronym for the letters, I, P, M, A, T, C. You come up with your own acronym later on to help you remember that. Right now, I just want to get you familiar with these different stages. And all of these stages, this is the entire process of creating a new cell. What would this be called? This is the cell cycle. The entire process from interphase, you need to be writing this. From interphase, and that should say cytokinesis, that's C-Y-T-O. I did a misspell, and on your paper I think it is correct. Okay. So it should be interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. But it's fixed on your page. But cell cycle, that's the entire process of creating a new cell for growth, repair, or replace. All right. Now within the cell cycle, you do have prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. This is the process of creating a new nucleus, 2 new nuclei. What would this be? This is mitosis. See how mitosis is within the cell cycle. What part of these stages are not mitosis? Interphase and cytokinesis. All right? So now, what does this all mean? Let's take a look. Here's a song. So you understand what it means.
It's a division. Events makes us grow and deeper.
Break down those
Events
different
makes us grow and deeper. Events makes us grow and deeper. It's a division. Events makes us grow and deeper. Events makes us grow and deeper. Events makes us grow and deeper. It makes a copy of DNA. The cell is active. Mitosis cells prevent the split into 2 cells.
The next stage is called mitosis. That's not all. And a phase, and the next phase, and inside of the knees is the cycle. It's not a
Prophase is one. The nucleus. Chromatin condenses. Letting go of cells. Spermatozoa form. A break between. End of the cell. And then come back every time. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. And do it. And do it. Let's do it. And do it. And do it. And do it. Do it. Do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Come cell division. Events makes us grow growing, divide. Next makes us growing, divide. Subdivision. Next makes us growing, divide. Next makes us growing, divide. Next makes us growing, divide. My name is Mitosis, come from my love, that I'm all in the middle, and then we're gonna do it. Let's get the fire, stop the war, and check your meters, which stands for something good. Politics, joy, elevators are free. It's time to split it away. Something is a breaking, let's step up, break. The politics, it moves along. Let's get the fire, begin to step out, they don't look like they did, no more like brothers, this is good, at the end of the surface, nuclear, memories born around this world, Mitosis, interface, prophase, negative, interface, telephase, circulating, still the seven, things are going down, and there are no destroys, that you said the truth, and the God is at the soul of the vision. Defense makes us growing, defense makes us growing, divide. Defense makes us growing, divide, subdivision. Defense makes us growing, divide. Defense makes us growing, divide. Defense makes us growing, divide, subdivision.
So now you know the different parts of the cell cycle and what happens in them. Yes, there was an interesting song where he was telling us exactly what's happening during that process, and this is all of our body doing it on its own so that we can create those new cells. What was one of the major reasons why we need to do that? So we can grow and repair and replace any damaged or lost cells. The first one is illustrated at the bottom of your paper. You have an oval, which is your cell. In interphase, you need to draw what you see here. In your oval, you have a nucleus, and you have other organelles. During interphase, who remembers what the song told us happens during interphase? You need to draw this on your bottom circle that's labeled interphase. You already have the oval, you need to draw what's inside. What did they say? Who remembers anything they said during interphase, either on the first video or the second video? The first video or the second, or the song, you know? Anybody remembers during interphase? Interphase is only a stage in what? Part of what? Cell cycle, not part of mitosis. In interphase, this is when your DNA starts to be copied. Because we know that right now we have how many chromosomes in each cell? 46. We got 23 from our mom and 23 from our dad. So when our cells have to make another cell, that other cell must be what? Duplicate. So it has to be what type of cell? Identical. So it must also contain how many chromosomes? No, it's 46. So this cell has to duplicate and make 6 so that it has 92, so the other cell can get 46 and be identical. Does everyone have interphase? What happens during interphase? What's duplicating? Your DNA. Your DNA is duplicating. Your DNA is your blueprint. The DNA tells the cell what it is going to do. All right? So either it's a brain cell or a skin cell, that is all within the DNA and the purpose of that cell. Everyone good with this? What's the next step? Prophase. This is the second stage of what? The cell cycle. Cell cycle, but it's the first stage of what? Mitosis. And there you have prophase. Now you have your chromosomes being continuously duplicating. Pro is the start of mitosis. The cell is starting to get ready to duplicate. is there are some X's within the nucleus. Those are your chromosomes. So you have some X's because your chromosomes look like little X's. All right, we're good. What's the next stage? Metaphase is the third stage of what? Cell cycle, but the second stage of mitosis. Metaphase, your chromosomes line up in the middle and your nucleus dissolves. You no longer have one nucleus. Now it's dissolved so that all this process can take place and you can start to get two new nuclei. Metaphase is middle. Middle. What's happening in the middle? What's happening? What did I tell you these X's were? What are they? It's not DNA. It's the things that are within the DNA that you got from your mom and your dad. They're chromosomes. Your chromosomes are lining up in the middle. Your chromosomes contain your genes. Tells you how you're going to be, how you're going to look. What are those lines? What are those lines? Who remembers what those lines are? It is the thing that puts them apart, like tug of war, starts with an S. Spindles. These are your spindles. If you want to jot that down on your notes, that's fine with me. But these are your spindle fibers that form. Notice again, your nucleus has dissolved. Your spindle fibers form because it's going to help pull those chromosomes apart so that one cell gets how many chromosomes? 46, and the other cell gets the other 46. Oh. Everyone have this done? Okay. Who said no? Okay. The next stage is anaphase. Anaphase is what of the cell cycle? Fourth stage of the cell cycle and third stage of mitosis. Here, here, your chromosomes now split. She gave you an example saying Anna A for away. The example that I like to use is look how the Anna is split with an N. Here's with the name Anna split with an N. Here's where your chromosomes are split. Anaphase is the splitting of the chromosomes. You still have your spindle fibers because they need to pull them apart still. You have this one. Yes, here. No, you have this one. While you're drawing, what's the next stage? Telophase. Is that part of mitosis? Yes. What step of mitosis is it? The fourth, which is the last step. What part of the cell cycle is it? The fifth. Is it the last step? No. Are we all good? Can I move? No. Okay. Everybody good? Okay. Here, telophase. In telophase, you now have two new nuclei. Remember, mitosis was the process of making what? I didn't know. Read your information. What was mitosis? The process of doing what? Divide two new nuclei. You have two new nuclei. This is why this is the end of mitosis. Because mitosis is making two new nuclei. You now have two new nuclei. Mitosis is done. But the cell cycle is not because you don't have two new cells yet, do you? They're still connected. That line that's on yours, that's where you can draw those little lines. Telophase. The nucleus tells your cell what to do. During telophase, you have two new nuclei, which tells the cells what to do. Telophase is the telling of the cells what to do. That's the way to remember that. You have it. Are you done drawing that? Very good. Now we're done with mitosis. Raise your hand again and tell me why we are done with mitosis. Raise your hand. Remember. Why is it the last step of mitosis? Nope, not necessarily. Okay. Two new nuclei have been made. Mitosis is creating two new nuclei. We did that. But are we done with cell cycle? No, because what is the cell cycle? Create new cells. These cells are still connected. Two new cells have not been created. What is the last stage of the cell cycle? Cytokinesis. Here you go. Here now you have two new cells. Cell cycle is complete. Cyto is cell. Kinesis means cut. It's the splitting of the cell. My fingers coming out. Everyone have their two new cells? Alright. What was the first stage of the cell cycle? Interphase. Then you enter into mitosis, which is the second stage of the cell cycle. Prophase. Then what? Metaphase. Anaphase. Telophase. Cytokinesis. Think for a moment in your brain. Think for a moment. We'll go back here for 1 second. Think for a moment what type of acronym you can come up with. No, think. To help you remember this order. And if you have something that works for you, you can put it on your paper. Think for a moment. As soon as you think of something, raise your hand. The sillier the better. Helps you remember that. A mnemonic device is what it's called. Mnemonic device, and you come up with a word for each letter to help you remember the order. Like in math, when you say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I paid my aunt to, no, we need something for that thing. I paid my aunt to cook. That's a good one. I packed my apple to class. Okay. One that has been come up with the past. Iguana people meet at the circus. I promised my aunt to clean. I play Monopoly and Taboo constantly. Whatever one works for you. If you think of something that you don't want to share, but it helps you, that works perfectly. Now, how many of you would like something to help you remember the order and what cell cycle and mitosis is in a fun way? Help you remember your notes in a fun way. All right, whether you want it or not, guess what? You're getting it. So here's the cell cycle. All right, so let's put on for mitosis. Words are going to be up here. want to hear you sing it as we sing along. So now you know the cell cycle, you know mitosis, and now you are going to participate with putting on for mitosis.